Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Eylon Levy, Israeli government spokesman. Thank you very much for joining us. First, a brief update, and then I will take your questions as always. Since declaring war on Israel with the October 7th massacre, Hamas has fired over 10,000 rockets at Israel. Over 1,200 Israelis were killed in the massacre, and the current injury count since the beginning of the massacre is 8,188. Those numbers, unfortunately, are still expected to change. The IDF has notified the families of 388 soldiers that their loved ones fell in battle, in addition to 59 fallen members of the police forces. The hostage count in Gaza is now around 240, including nationals of 26 different countries. It is day 45 that our approximately 240 hostages are in Hamas captivity, and I want to draw attention to a burning issue. For 45 days, Israeli society has been living in a horror movie. Hamas is holding hostage over 18 girls under 18, one as young as 2. Over 18 little girls held by the men who murdered, tortured, and raped their way through southern Israel in the October 7th massacre. For over a month, violent anti-Semites have been tearing down posters of innocent, little, vulnerable girls in cities and college campuses around the world. And the celebrity world was silent. 9 years ago, Boko Haram abducted 276 teenage girls in Nigeria. It was known as the Chibok schoolgirls kidnapping. Hollywood stars paraded up and down the red carpet holding signs like these. #BringBackOurGirls. Anyone who was anyone demanded the immediate return of those vulnerable Nigerian schoolgirls. But when little Israeli girls were abducted by Hamas rapists, it's like a silent movie. Silence from Hollywood. Our little girls' lives are worth no less. They mean everything to us. We demand all good people, and especially artists and influencers, speak up to bring all of them back home now, and especially to bring back our girls. You've got the script, you've practiced, the lights are on, camera, action. Several important operational updates as Israel continues to dismantle the Hamas terror state. At the Shifa hospital, the IDF has been exposing concrete proof, literally, of the Hamas terror complex underneath it. Last night, the IDF revealed a 55-meter-long fortified terror tunnel 10 meters deep underneath the hospital complex, leading to a blast door. The IDF revealed many hospital buildings in the complex used by Hamas. We also released CCTV footage of 2 hostages being manhandled into the hospital by terrorists armed with meat cleavers and guns. They did that in broad daylight, in plain sight of the doctors, and then stayed around to chat with them. They all knew. The doctors quoted by international media over the last month who denied Hamas had a presence in the hospital, they knew and they lied. Cowed by Hamas or collaborators with it, those doctors are complicit. This morning, the IDF confirmed it had killed 3 Hamas company commanders. Also today, IDF troops identified another terrorist cell. An IDF aircraft strike killed the terrorists, destroying their weapons depot where they were hiding. The IDF has also apprehended over 300 terrorists during the ground operation and brought them to Israeli territory for interrogation. Those interrogations are yielding valuable information, including about the location of underground terror tunnels, weapon silos, and Hamas's operational methods and attempts to blend into the civilian population. That information has led to the production of 300 new enemy targets, the elimination of terror operatives, and the preservation of our forces' security. Today, the IDF, through Kogat, has been facilitating the transfer of Gazan premature babies from the Shifa hospital for further medical treatment in Egypt. This came at the request of Egypt and the director of the Shifa hospital, and after the World Health Organization finally acceded to Israel's request to facilitate an evacuation in northern Gaza after over a month of resisting exactly that. The evacuation was carried out by UN teams with the assistance of IDF teams on the ground. Israeli incubators were provided to the Shifa hospital for the rescue effort. Israel is helping to evacuate Palestinian babies. Hamas is holding our babies hostage. That is the difference between us and them. In the north, Hezbollah has fired more than 1,000 missiles at Israel since the start of the war with Hamas. This morning, IDF artillery struck in several locations in Lebanon in response to Hezbollah aggression, striking the sources of the launches. the IDF also intercepted a number of launches in airspace. Launches towards the area of Biranit caused a fire to break out today, and fire rescue services have been at the scene. That is all for today's operational update. As always, if you have a question, please put your hand up or type the question in the chat. Jim Williams. Hi, Jim. Of course, we're deeply grateful to the Biden administration and both parties in the US Congress for their important support during this campaign to destroy Hamas. That support is not only material, it is also moral and diplomatic. The president and leaders have been absolutely clear. The only way this war can end in response to the October 7th massacre is with the total destruction of Hamas. We salute the 2 aircraft carriers that are in the region now from the United States, the ongoing supply of munitions, and we are, of course, grateful to stand shoulder to shoulder with our greatest ally in the world as we fight what the United States has made very clear is a threat not only to Israel but to regional security and to US interests as well. Okay, I want to address the fake news that has been doing the rounds online as if Israeli helicopters were somehow responsible for Israeli deaths on October 7th. We've seen the Palestinian Authority parroting this full-on 9/11 trutherism as well as it tries to cover up Hamas's crimes, obviously because they were so unconscionable as to be totally unforgivable. I've seen the Haaretz report that noted that a few people may have been killed in the crossfire on October 7th. From that to make the extraordinary leap to suggest that there were no Hamas atrocities is truly abominable. I can point you to the statement that was released by the Israel police noting this specifically. This is the statement from the Israel police. Contrary to the publication, the police investigation does not refer to the activity of the IDF forces, and therefore no indication was given of any harm to civilians caused by any aerial activity at the site. The Israel police statement goes on to say, the preliminary findings of the ongoing national inquiry, spearheaded by law enforcement and communicated to the international media, cast a spotlight on the profound and reprehensible acts committed by Hamas terrorists during the Nova Music Festival. Any effort to downplay the severity of these atrocities, as depicted in the misleading Haaretz newspaper publication, the police statement says, deserves unequivocal rejection. Particularly at this time, we call on the media to show responsibility in their reporting and to base their journalism on official sources only. Next question, please. Sorry, Olivia, we're just going through a different question at the moment. Just a second. I'll call you in a second. We have a question about the footage that Hamas released yesterday showing its own forces targeting the Rantisi Children's Hospital with RPGs. Hamas has, of course, been documenting its own war crimes proudly since the beginning of this war, has no qualms about basing its own military activities in hospitals, so it's not surprising to see Hamas attacking hospitals inside the Gaza Strip. But for the specific context, I would refer your question to the IDF. We had a question from Olivia from the BBC, please. You had your hand up. Hi, Olivia.
Can I get a comment, please, on the potential expansion south military operations? A couple of days ago, there were reports about peace being announced that there is discussions around a potential ceasefire, with a number of people who fled south and it's a humanitarian crisis developing there. How can the Israelis guarantee any security or safe areas if the military operation is
Sure. In response to the October 7th massacre, Israel declared that our war has two main aims, this war that Hamas declared on us. First of all, the total destruction of Hamas's terrorist and governing capabilities inside the Gaza Strip so that Gaza can never again pose a threat to our people. And second, of course, the safe return of our hostages. I believe it was towards the end of last week that the IDF Chief of Staff, Eylon Levy, said that we are close to completing operations in the northern Gaza Strip. Of course, the IDF is operating deep inside Gaza City. I would refer you to that statement from the army at the end of last week. And we will continue at full force to destroy all of Hamas terror infrastructure wherever it exists inside the Gaza Strip. Now, within that, we have been urging Palestinians in the Gaza Strip to go towards the specially designated safe zones. Those are areas where we have been encouraging international agencies to facilitate their humanitarian aid operations. Very important that that be able to reach the people of the Gaza Strip. But we reaffirm Hamas has spent 16 years embedding itself deep inside civilian areas. We've been uncovering rocket launchers in mosques and schools. We've uncovered tunnel shafts underneath children's beds, rockets and RPGs stored underneath little girls' mattresses. These are atrocious war crimes, vile violations of international law. Hamas's whole MO, its whole strategy is based on using human shields, based on hiding behind women and children in order to make it very difficult for Israel to target the monsters who perpetrated the October 7th massacre. And we will continue doing everything we can to urge civilians to get out of harm's way from areas where Hamas is operating, because we will not allow Hamas to remain in power and to retain its military capabilities after this war. Hamas is openly telling us that it plans to perpetrate a second October 7th, a third October 7th, a fourth, a million October 7ths. We, of course, will not allow our people to be brutalized in the way that we saw on the original October 7th, and that's why this war will end with the total destruction of Hamas, and we're going above and beyond our obligations to try to keep civilian casualties to an absolute minimum, despite Hamas's attempts to maximize them in the Gaza Strip. Do we have any other questions, please? Coach, a question from you, please. Coach, if you could just state your media outlet, please. Mm-hmm. The Prime Minister has not made a statement on that issue. We have another question in the chat. An important question there from Dave Bender, if I'm seeing that correctly, about Hezbollah aggression in the north. As we said, since the beginning of the war with Hamas, there have been over 1,000 Hezbollah rockets fired towards Israel. That doesn't include the other projectiles. Hezbollah is clearly trying to escalate the situation, and we are working to contain and focus on Hamas in the south and complete our campaign to destroy Hamas in response to the October 7th massacre. You raise an important issue. There are currently, I believe, around 250,000 internally displaced persons in Israel, most of whom have been forcibly evacuated from their communities because we cannot allow a risk of the repeat of the October 7th massacre on the northern border as well. The IDF has been responding to the source of fire inside Lebanon, and we repeat what has been our message from the very beginning of this war. Anyone thinking of escalating this conflict or entering this war, don't. Fire will be met with stronger fire. And if Hezbollah decides to enter and drag us into a full-scale war, it will be making the mistake of a lifetime, and the consequences for Hezbollah and for Lebanon will be severe. A question from Mayor Ben Uliel about the release of the hostages. Look, this is the most common question we're getting. I'm afraid I can't comment on sensitive negotiations that are taking place. You'll understand that human lives hang in the balance. The less we say, the better. Needless to say, we are, of course, hopeful that our 240 hostages, including those over 30 children, will be able to return to their families immediately, unconditionally, most importantly, safely and healthily. Okay, that's all we have time for today. Thank you very much. We'll update you in the group tomorrow about tomorrow's briefing. Everyone keep safe and have a good evening. Thank you very much.